Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 121 in this series Viewers Games. We're also going to make a new move in the game of myself against the Chess to Impress viewers. If you would like your game to be analyzed on this YouTube channel, then you can send me your game by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. In this video, it is the turn of Anirudh from India, and Anirudh says, "Hi, my name is Anirudh. I'm from India, where I work as a software engineer. I started playing chess casually online in 2016, around the time of the World Championship match between Carlsen and Karyakin. In fact, that's when I started watching Chess to Impress, the World Championship match coverage. Since then, I've been following the channel regularly, and I try not to miss any videos. Thank you for that, Anirudh. Unfortunately, I don't get to play as often these days due to various other commitments. I do play a few games now and then, but mostly I watch more chess than playing it. Here's a game I played today on Lichess. My handle is Fuzzy Magician. In this game I'm black and my opponent is white. I have added some annotations to the PGN file, indicating my thinking at the time of playing the game. There's also a nice forced checkmate sequence that I missed during the game. I would love to hear your analysis and comments and feedback on the game. Cheers, says Anirudh. Let's get into Anirudh's game. He played with the black pieces, so we're going to look at this game from the black side. It was played on Lichess with a classical time control. I don't know the exact time control, but there was time to think. The white player had a rating of 1590. And his name was Pro100K Off. And as Anirudh said, his name is Fuzzy Magician and he had a rating of 1500 exactly when this game was played. White opened e4 and Anirudh played the French defense. And he says, I wanted to play the French. And here d4 is the main move. And as I often say, if you want to improve at chess, then play the main lines. After all, they are the main lines for a reason. But look at white's second move, a3. And Anirudh says, this seemed unnecessary to me, and I wholeheartedly agree. d5, e takes d5, and e takes d5, and d3. Anirudh says he was expecting d4, and that is indeed a better move, getting a foothold in the center. Here knight f6 or knight c6 are the most logical moves. But d4 was played by Anirudh, and he said, I was hoping to punish white for not playing d4 himself by taking away space. It is not a bad move, Anirudh, but developing a piece is better here, bringing your forces into play. And now look at this move from white, queen h5. Anirudh says, not sure what white's plan is here. A very logical reply is knight f6, developing a piece. Put a tempo on the queen, so black wins more time. Anirudh delayed that move for a while. He played c5 first, b3, and knight f6 now. Developing and kicking away the queen, says Anirudh. The queen ran back to e2 with a check. Bishop e7, developing a piece at the same time as shielding the check. And h3, Anirudh says, preventing bishop g4, I guess. Well, I'm saying this was not a threat. White has only made pawn and queen moves so far. Very poor opening play from white. Anirudh castled. And bishop b2, and this is an interesting moment. First we have to call the newspapers, because white develops a piece. But when he finally does this, he develops the piece to a square where it has very little scope. In fact, the bishop has more scope on c1 than on b2. On c1 it has this diagonal to look at. On b2 it's looking at the pawn on d4, which is well protected. So developing pieces is not about moving them. It's about putting them on a square where they have more scope than on their initial square. So even though white developed a piece, he did not really develop that piece. He put it on a worse square. And that's not what we should do in chess. So bishop b2 is also a bad move. Rook e8 makes more sense. It's threatening to win the queen. When Anirudh plays his bishop away, then the queen is pinned and black will win white's queen. Knight d2. If now the bishop moves away, then white can still interpose the knight on e4 to prevent losing the queen. Knight c6 and castling queenside from white. b5. Anirudh says, at this point I thought I should have a pretty good chance at winning the game if I just push all my queenside pawns. I noticed that white hasn't started developing any of his kingside pieces. And that is true, these ones are still all at home. f3 was played by white, and in positions with opposite castling, the common strategy is for both players to attack their opponent's king. White on the king side and black on the queen side. But this move f2, f3 does not show any aggressive intentions on the king side. In fact, it's covering the natural development square of the knight. The knight wants to go to f3 in many cases. And it's hard to see how this knight on g1 will get into the game. f3 was another poor move from white. Knight d5 from Anirudh. He said e3 and c3 look very nice squares for this knight. White played knight e4. Bishop g5 check. You cannot take that bishop because then you lose your queen. King b1 and now a5, continuing with his plan. Anirudh said, I'm continuing with my plan of pushing the queenside pawns. But here, f5 instead wins a piece. The knight is pinned. It's always good when following a plan to look out for tactical possibilities at the same time. Black wins a piece here. a5 is not a bad move, but winning a piece is probably better. Rook e1, and here still f5 is possible, winning a piece. But Anirudh continued on the queen side with a4. The queen stepped aside, and now f5 no longer wins a piece. Bishop e7 is the best move here given by the engine, protecting the pawn on c5, and the bishop can later be involved in the queenside attack. Nice move, bishop e7. Anirudh played a strange move. He played bishop h6. Not a very good move. White now took a pawn, and Anirudh says, I missed this move and I lost a pawn. Yes, indeed. But not all is lost. Black's position is still very good. Bishop e3. The bishop now went the correct way, and he said, looking to cut off the queen from the queen side. Queen g3, and Anirudh said here, I noticed that I need to be careful against possible queen takes g7 ideas later, since the bishop is on b2. And yes, indeed, that is a tactical motif. These two pieces pointing at the g7 square. But for the moment, there's a well-protected pawn on d4, but it's good that Anirudh already saw that he has to be careful for this tactical motif. And now Anirudh took on b3, and he said, looking to open up the queen side. The engine thinks that b4 instead is even better. Black will be able to open up lines against white's king. But a takes, b3 was played, knight takes, and now b4. A takes, and knight takes d4, winning a second pawn, and also opening up that diagonal for that bishop on b2. It's time for cool heads, and to Anirudh's credit, he keeps a cool head indeed. He plays queen a5, threatening checkmate with queen a2, that would be checkmate. Rook takes e3, only move. And what that move does, it gives the king the c1 square, so queen a2 is not checkmate. Rook takes, and now knight b3, looks very good for white. It's attacking the queen, and at the same time is threatening checkmate on g7. Is white winning this game of chess? No, he's not, because Anirudh had looked further. He gave a check, king c1, and f6. Black has saved his queen, and there's no queen takes g7 checkmate anymore. But here Anirudh said he missed a forced checkmate sequence. He said he had very little time on the clock and was in a slight panic mode. And indeed, if you want to look for this checkmate sequence yourself, then put the video on pause and have a look what to play instead of f6. It's a very nice move. Queen takes b2 to start with, a queen sacrifice. If you take the queen, there is rook a2 check, protected by the knight, king c1, rook takes c2 check, king b1, and knight c3 check, king a1, and checkmate. Beautiful checkmate combination. If after queen takes b2 check you don't take the queen but go to d1, then there is checkmate on the spot on c2. Indeed, Anirudh had missed this combination. It's not very easy to find. You have to first sacrifice your queen. And as said, he played f6. Queen h4. And bishop f5. Anirudh says, I wanted to sacrifice the bishop by taking on d3, followed by rook c8. Again, queen takes b2 check would have led to the same checkmate here as we just saw. But bishop f5 was played, g4, and now Anirudh is able to play that bishop sacrifice to open up the white king. Bishop takes, knight takes check, c takes, and now the c file is open for the rook. White played king d1 and resigned after having played that move. He must have seen here that Anirudh can play queen b1 check and mate on c2 on the next move. Very nice game from Anirudh. Anirudh, you played really well and you punished your opponent for his very purposeless play at the start of the game. Not developing his pieces, not bringing his pieces into play, and once he brought one piece into play, he put it on the worst square. If we look at the rook on h1 and the knight on g1, they have not taken part at all in this game. White was just playing with a rook and a knight less. But Anirudh, you played very well and deservedly won this game after 29 moves. Thank you very much for sending in this game so I could share it with the Chess to Impress community. Hope you enjoyed it. And then we have this position. Rick, myself is white and the Chess to Impress viewers are black. Last Sunday, every Sunday we make a move in this game. I took a pawn on d6 with my knight from b5. And it was your turn. Let's see what moves you came up with. There were 20 votes and rook d7 takes d6, taking a knight. Got 12 votes, so has won by a large margin. Rook back to d8 was voted for twice. One of those people was the most active participant in this game, Jack Reerung. Jack almost crashed his car when he was thinking about this game, he said in the comments. Bishop e5 was voted for once, as was bishop d4, bishop b7. Queen g5 was an interesting move from Jim, giving away the queen. Jim has given up on this game, it seems. And queen f6 also was voted for once, and one player wanted for black to resign. So rook d7 takes the knight on d6 is your move. Let's put it on the board. Rook takes d6. And my move is pretty obvious. It was mentioned a number of times in the comment section. And I had seen it when I took on d6. Bishop takes d6 is not as strong as the move I'm going to make. Which is queen takes c5 with a double attack. I'm attacking the rook with two pieces. It's only defended by the queen. And I'm also attacking the bishop on c8. And I think I'm going to win my piece back. And will probably be 2 pawns up when the dust settles. So it is your move again. What would you play for black here on the 28th move? You can take part in this game by putting your move in the comment section underneath this video. And by doing so, you will be in the raffle. At the end of the game, I will raffle a chess book amongst the viewers who have taken part in this game. I'm looking forward to seeing your move in the comment section. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, if you like this video series of viewers games, then please share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.